Hi guys, welcome back to Mystic Mamas. My name is Danielle and I'll be your host today. It is the first time I'm recording without Dakota, so I'm a little nervous, but I am excited, and I just wanted to say thank you guys for all your support and love as usual, and thank you guys for listening and letting us share our stories and everything. We just really appreciate it. And I also want to thank Dakota for sharing her story last episode and being so open and real and honest and vulnerable with us. I know that took a lot of courage and bravery, and I'm just so proud of you. So thank you. And yeah, today I'm going to go ahead and share you guys my story and my birth story with Oliver, and just let y'all have a whole spectrum. Every birth story is so different and unique and special, and I find that to be the most beautiful thing. We all have our own way of coming into this world, and our children choose how they want to come, and it just flows as it does, and none of our stories are exactly the same, but if you can resonate, we love that, we appreciate that. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and share mine. So we'll start off towards the end of my pregnancy. I was extremely ready. I was about so pregnant that I just couldn't, I was ready to get that baby out of me. All of my previous fears and anxieties about birth kind of were like at the back of my mind now, because all I wanted was to be done. It was middle summer. I felt huge. It was heavy. I felt so tight and exhausted, and it was just like, okay, let's go. Time to evict this thing. And I think it was so prepared. That I was ready for anything, right? I had packed my house. I started packing my hospital bag at 27 weeks. I'm a Virgo queen. I like to have everything done down to a T as quickly and as organized as possible. I had a checklist. I had an inventory list of what was in there, what still needed to be in there. I had this beautiful plan of having my hospital room set up like it was a home birth, because deep down in my soul, part of me wanted to be the kind of person who had a home birth. I think it looks so beautiful and so relaxing and so comforting, and that's what I wanted. But I also wanted to be medicated, so I had to do what I had to do, and I went to the hospital. But I did have a goal of like setting up my space like it was my home. That went out the fucking window the second I got there. So, but we love a prepared queen anyways, right? Because I did try. I just didn't know what birth would be like, and I didn't know that I wouldn't give a shit about anything but like focusing on my body at the time. Now, I was prepared for everything, but what I wasn't prepared for was getting COVID. We got COVID. My boyfriend got COVID at like 39 weeks. I was 39 weeks pregnant, and he got COVID, and it was like super stressful for multiple reasons. Number one was the health of me and my baby, and I didn't know how that was going to go, so that was really scary. Two, him having to take off so much time right before I went into birth, so like his time off was going to take away from his time off whenever the baby came, and that was really sad and really scary too. And I felt a lot of things around that. And also, would he or would he not be able to go in the hospital room with me if I did go into labor, because we both had COVID? And how would I feel being sick and giving birth at the same time and alone? It was so many, like, I was so afraid of all of these things that COVID brought into the world, that like, now looking back, there's a positive to that, is that because I was so focused on all the things with COVID, all of my anxieties about birth really went out the window. I didn't even care about anything else but like getting healthy again and being able to have Danielle in the hospital with me. And so that was really like anxious time. I was also really afraid because my doctor told me that for one, that we would be fine, and that we're actually giving Oliver antibodies that would help protect him. And so that made me feel comfort, but also I had to be aware of my temperature and my blood pressure, because at a certain point, if it reached a certain point, I needed to immediately go to the hospital. So that was really scary, and I like neurotically was checking those things. Luckily both of our symptoms for COVID were pretty low, so we had a very mild COVID experience, which I am also very, very grateful for. And there was only about one night that I kind of had a really bad fever, and I felt like absolutely dog trash. And that night was kind of scary. But again, I never got to a point where I needed to go anywhere. And the next day I felt so much better. And so by the time labor did come around, we definitely had like no more symptoms, each of us. So we're really, really grateful for that. And that I think helped with the rest, but it definitely was a very anxious time, and we were still in quarantine. Technically, he couldn't go back to work, and we were still quarantining because in our room, because Dakota lived with us also, and we didn't want her to get sick. And so we were in our room, which also was our nursery though, because like I said, we were sharing a room with the baby, and that made me also really super anxious. And I felt like we were contaminating everything. His clothes, his bassinet, everything that was his set up for a nursery was in our room while we had COVID quarantined in there. And so that was really hard for me because I just wanted to clean. I wanted to clean everything. I wanted to get it all taken care of before this newborn was put in there. And so it was really, really scary in the time. And yeah, I sat in that for a while. And then one night on like a Tuesday night, I think it was like, I want to say around like 9 o'clock at night, I was feeling cramps, and they felt really light. And so part of me was like, is this Braxton Hicks? Is this not? But all of a sudden, like I got a couple that intuitively I was like, okay, I think this might be labor for real. So I started to map it out and like write down the times and the spaces and the minutes and all the things, right? And I told Danielle, I was like, I think I'm going into labor. I think I need to start cleaning, and you should go to sleep to get some rest, because I'm going to need you to be on it, and me too. But I couldn't sleep. I knew I couldn't sleep, and I knew he could, so I wanted him to at least have some rest. And I wanted to clean. I was in this like anxious energy. I need to knock this out before this baby comes, kind of nesting period. And so I got to work and I started cleaning, and I think I even ran into Dakota downstairs, and she was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm cleaning, the baby's coming. And she was like, oh, okay, keep me updated. So it was like this, I know she probably thought I looked crazy, like in labor cleaning the house, but I know she also gets it. And so I was like cleaning, and finally we got to the point where I also thought I wanted to, or I was really trying to stay home as long as possible. But I got caught up in like, I don't want to hit traffic and be in labor in the car. So I think it was about like 2 a.m. when finally I was like, okay, I'm ready to go to the hospital. The contractions were at a point where they really started to hurt. And so we went to the hospital, and I was about 3 centimeters dilated. And luckily they went ahead and checked me in, and they went ahead and let Daniel up, which was a huge relief. And I think the relief from that made everything else just feel like okay. I felt so safe and secure knowing that he was like going to be in the hospital room with me. So I was so grateful that every other fear and worry just kind of went away. And so again, I'm kind of grateful for COVID for that, because it gave me a sense of like, I didn't have anxiety around anything once Daniel got in the room, because my biggest fears were dissipated. I was good. We were having this baby together. And I'm very grateful for him being there, because he was my rock during it. Like, he was so great to me. He got me everything I needed, all the ice chips, anything and everything. This man like was rubbing my feet, my back. He was so beautiful during this time period, and still is today. I'm very grateful for him as a partner in parenthood. And yeah, I'm also really grateful that I lived with Dakota at the time too, because she helped finish the cleaning I couldn't do, and she made our bed and got the room ready for us. And I'm so grateful to have had her during that time period. I really was. And so anyways, we got checked into the hospital, and I also had to plan all these visions for my birth plan, right? That didn't work out. I wanted to wait to get the epidural until towards the end. I wanted to go natural as long as possible, and as long as possible for me really quickly turned into are you getting an epidural? Yes, as soon as you can fucking give it to me. Actually, like the second I get to the point where you can go ahead and put that epidural in, I need you to put that epidural in. That's how the contractions felt for me. So if anyone tells you they feel like bad period cramps, they're either have a high pain tolerance, or I don't know, everyone's different. I'm not trying to speak for everyone, but those things fucking hurt. And they only felt like bad period cramps at the very beginning. So do with that as you will. But yeah, I'm really thankful for the epidural. And again, those of you who do it unmedicated, you are powerhouses. Go you. but that wasn't me, and the epidural saved me in that moment, and my contractions, it felt so much better, and it didn't hurt. The epidural didn't hurt for me, but it did make me really itchy, and I did get the shakes closer towards, like the really bad shakes closer to when I was giving birth, but I've also read that my nurse also said that was something that happens in labor too, so I don't know if they correlate more, but definitely was itchy. And I was able to kind of sleep for a little while, and then I woke up and I had such bad contractions, and I wasn't actually ready, that they were worried they might have to induce me, because like my body wasn't going as fast as it was like contradicting each other, I guess, in my body. And so, but I was so grateful for my team of nurses and doctor, because like, first of all, it was the luck of draw for me. I didn't know my team. I didn't even know the doctor I was going to have. It was just whoever was working at the time period kind of situation for me. And so I'm just so grateful, because I had an all-woman team down to the woman who gave me my epidural. And I'm just really, really grateful, because I always felt seen and heard, and I always felt like I was being taken care of and safe. And so that was a big blessing, and I'm so grateful I had that. And they really listened to me, because at one point I didn't want to get induced, and so we went as natural. We went as much as we could, and that helped a lot, because I was able to give birth and without being induced. But they did have to break my water, and that was okay. Everything was fine. I honestly wasn't in any panic, except for my epidural. My first epidural did fail, and so in order to combat me contracting in the way I was and trying to give the birth before I was ready, they gave me a second epidural, which also didn't hurt. I just, at that point, my contractions were so bad that I was like, I could not feel anything else. And again, just so grateful for Daniel. He was such a blessing through this whole thing. And then the second epidural worked really well. I was out like a light. I was able to sleep. But when I woke up from that nap the second time, Daniel gave me a bunch of ice chips. I remember being so thirsty. That's the one thing about being at the hospital that I regret, is that one, I couldn't move around a lot like I wanted to. I really wanted to be able to like move around and like walk my contractions out, but I couldn't at the hospital, because they required me to be monitored in so many different ways, which was so fucking uncomfortable, and I hated that part. And yeah, so I wish I definitely would have stayed home a little later, but I didn't. So that part was really uncomfortable. And also the fact that like I couldn't have any food or water, and I didn't think to eat beforehand, and that was really hard, because I was, one, really fucking hungry, and two, I had the worst dry mouth of my entire life, and I just felt like I had cotton mouth so fucking bad, and all I wanted to do was drink, and they would not let me drink anything, and I was miserably thirsty. And honestly, that's all I could focus on, and a big part of my labor was just how thirsty I was. And so Daniel was like giving me ice chips, to the point where the nurse was like, okay girl, like I know you're drinking those ice chips, you can't have any more. And so it was like really hard for me. But when I woke up for that next nap, Daniel was like, all right, how you doing? Because he saw it, and I felt it instantly that the baby was coming. Like I knew intuitively, like this was it, the baby was coming. Daniel saw it on me, and I told the nurse, like, the baby's coming. The nurse was like, no, there's no way, it's not ready yet. And I just looked at her, I was like, no, I'm telling you right now, this baby's coming. And I'm so thankful she listened to me, because she was like, all right, I'll get the doctor. And she got the doctor, and the doctor came in, and the doctor took one look at me and was like, yeah, you're right, the baby's coming, let me get you guys set up. And before she could even go, because the room wasn't even set up for anything, but so before she could even go get the stuff to set me up, the nurse was like, no, doctor, come back, the baby's coming. And yeah, it was something I mentally prepped to be like so much longer and have to like work so much harder for, that I was in such shock, because once I started, well, I pushed like twice. I pushed twice, 2 or 3 times maybe. And within 5 minutes, one big push basically got him out. And it was like maybe a 5-10 minute period process from like, oh, he's coming, to he's here, and they're asking if I want to hold a baby all of a sudden. I was in such shock that, like, when they asked me that, I said, I guess. Like, I didn't even, like, what do you mean he's here? Like, all of a sudden a baby's crying and being placed on my chest, and we just, like, I was just napping, dude. Like, what the fuck just happened? And it was, like, such a state of shock, and, like, I had a lot of mom guilt around that at first. I've had to work through because I didn't feel that connection. I didn't feel the love. I didn't feel the oversurge of like emotions. Like, I'm a crier. I really thought I would like break down crying or something, but I was just like numb, shocked, checked out almost. It felt like I blacked out for a second and like came back to, and all of a sudden I'm like a mother. Like, it was the weirdest feeling. It was just so strange and like crazy and fast, and next thing you know it, we're being latched and we're talking about breastfeeding, and I'm trying to feed this newborn thing, and I don't know what I'm doing, and there's all these people doing it. I'm being sewed up, I'm being touched in all these different ways. Daniel's over here like cutting an umbilical cord. It was just such a like chaotic few minutes, and all I could think about was how fucking thirsty I was. And that's another thing. I asked the doctor really quick, can I have something to drink? I made Daniel go get me a soda, a tea, a Powerade, and a water, because I just wanted everything. And I felt like I do when I'm hungover. I want every single drink I could think of. And that is how it started. And I remember it was just so hard because everything happened so fast almost that it's like I couldn't catch up to what just happened mentally. And so, although I'm really, really grateful it was that kind of experience, like it was fast, it was easy, it was beautiful in that sense, and I'm really grateful. And Daniel's reaction was really beautiful. He was so great during that time period, and it was really cool to see him become a dad just like in that moment, just like it was cool for me to become a mom in my own way. And yeah, it was great, but it was also just very overwhelming in a lot of ways. And so by the time, and I was so exhausted that by the time they put us in a room, like everything seemed like a blur from there. The healing felt okay. Like, it did hurt a lot more the next day, and it was like a hassle to do things, and I really wanted a shower and like real food. I didn't get a good after-birth meal because by the time I got to a point where they could let us eat, they wouldn't let Daniel leave the room because we had COVID. So we were stuck having to DoorDash something. And the only thing that was open on DoorDash was fucking Jack in the Box. And by the time it got to us, it was 2-hour-old Jack in the Box. Okay. So if you can imagine that, like, fucking vomit, thanks. But I was starving, so I had to eat it. And it was just like, man, what I really wanted at that point in time, if I had to get fast food, was Whataburger. And I had been picturing this juicy fucking burger. And I got this cold ass, trash ass Jack in the Box. And that's like the main thing I remember being like really upset about it, because I was just so exhausted and so hungry and so over waiting for food and waiting because I wanted to sleep, and we had a baby to take care of now, and it was just like so much was happening. But then we had to eat hospital food the next few days, and it was just all I wanted to do was get home with my baby and get out of the fucking hospital, because we were healing well, and it was like a really good thing. Now, I was really grateful to be in the hospital at the same time too, because there were nurses there. I felt safe, and like, despite them coming in every 5 fucking minutes and waking us up when I finally get us going, but like, they were there to help me breastfeed. They were there to help me everything. And so like, I felt comfortable in a sense. And once we got released to go home, it was like all of a sudden all these emotions and all these things that I'd been kind of like repressing almost, it just started to sink in. Like, all of a sudden, like, oh shit, now I'm terrified. Now I'm taking a baby home to, like, I am in charge of keeping this thing alive. Me and Daniel are in charge of keeping this thing alive. There was one night at the hospital where the nurses had to wake me and Daniel up because we were sleeping right through the baby crying. And I was terrified. I was like, holy shit, we're parents. This is on us now. And like, all of a sudden all these emotions came in, and like, when they told Daniel to go get the car, they left me alone in the room with Oliver for the first time. It's the first time I've been alone with Oliver since I was pregnant. And then that is when all this like overwhelming sense of emotion came over me. And that's when I cried for the first time that entire 4 days. I cried, and I was just like, I'm not ready to share you with the world. And I just felt this overwhelming love and need to protect this little tiny perfect human in my arms. And it was just so beautiful and such a like bonding moment for us to have that like last time alone before we left the hospital. And I remember really taking that in and like just crying with him, because I was like, I'm no longer will you just be in my belly protected by me and me only, and like I'll have to share you with family and people. And even though that part is beautiful too, it was like our moment like all of a sudden that alone time we had spent, all that time that I didn't really appreciate, came flooding into me, because it was like, man, like even though pregnancy was really fucking hard, like we were together, a team, and like I didn't realize how much I felt like that until he was outside of me, and my whole world was outside, my heart was outside of my body, and it just felt really, really hard. And then that's kind of like when the beginning of my extreme postpartum anxiety started to kick in. So it was really tough, because the second we exited those hospital doors, I felt so much anxiety over keeping him safe, and like it was tough. I'm not going to get too much into my postpartum journey, because it was filled with really, really bad anxiety over everything, like to the point where I was like watching him breathing instead of sleeping while he slept, because I just couldn't take my eyes off him. I felt so anxious. In the car ride home, every bump, everything we hit, I sat in the back. I was just like staring at him to make sure he was okay the whole way. It was just really, really scary leaving the hospital. That's the one thing that was hard for me. But I was also so grateful for my birth experience, because everything else leading up and all throughout my pregnancy, it felt like everything was wrong. And overall, even though, you know, it had its moments being hard, of course, you know, it's labor, it's childbirth, it's not easy. And even though I did have an epidural, there were painful and hard moments, and moments where I was begging for, I told Danielle that I didn't think I could do this. There was very like hard moments, but overall it was just like really, really beautiful. And I was really grateful that of all things, that one, like my birth went okay and as to plan as it could be. And those moments that I felt like I couldn't do this and I couldn't give birth, and the moments I felt weak during childbirth, I had a good partner who was there to like remind me that I could, and to tell me the affirmations I told him to, you know, he was there as a true partner. And I was so grateful, and I'm very, very grateful for my experience. And that like in it all, even though it wasn't what I imagined it would be, it was still its own unique, beautiful thing. And even though I didn't feel that immediate emotional connection, it did come after a few days, and I did feel it. And like, Oliver's 16 months old now, and I've never loved anything more than him in my entire life. He is my world. I love him so much. I'm so grateful to be his mom, and I just am so grateful for that experience. And so yeah, it was a beautiful thing, and for me, overall, a very positive experience. And yeah, and again, and I was grateful to be able to bring home Oliver to Dakota, who patiently was there for me through my phone the entire way. And she really helped whenever I brought him home. She's a great auntie, and I'm really grateful for her presence during that time period also. Even if it wasn't in the room, she was in the room with us. And yeah, so overall, that was my story. And if you're pregnant now, just know that there are many different stories, and there's many ways this can go. And it's no matter what, at the end of the day, you get through it, and you can do it, and you're strong, and you're powerful, and you're a warrior. And women are just the most amazing things. I just, after birth, I feel like I have never seen women as powerful as I do now. And myself, I've never felt more powerful and strong in the fact that like we really can grow human life and birth it. And every birth is valid. Every birth is a birth, whether it's vaginal or C-section or however your baby comes in this world is a birth, and it is valid, and it is beautiful. And we are just so powerful in that, and I just want to remind you of that, and myself sometimes too. I tend to forget. I think we all forget how we are. And yeah, so if you're pregnant, just know you can do it. Have faith, and know that at the end of the day, you'll meet your baby on the other side, and it's so beautiful. And so yeah, I that's my story. That's all until our next episode. I just want to thank you guys for being here and listening to my story and letting me share, and yeah, and continuing to support us and doing everything with us is beautiful. Thank you. We enjoy this community, and we will see you in the next episode. I'm not quite sure when we'll be announcing the topic of that, but stay tuned. Be sure to follow us and keep up, and we'll be back shortly. And thank you guys so much.